The other day, a patron named Ganymede sent me a message that really just pushed me down a rabbit hole. It was about how apparently there are people on TikTok complaining that their Adderall, which is an amphetamine that's primarily used for the effective treatment of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, isn't working for them. And in fact, it might actually be fake, despite being obtained through a legit pharmacist with a prescription from a real doctor. And let me tell you, my initial gut reaction was, oh, interesting, another social media related mass hysteria, a la the tics experienced by teenagers who were fans of influencers with Tourette's, which I talked about a short while ago. Brain meds are tough for each person to dial in, and we've been in a particularly stressful time, what with the pandemic and with a national shortage of Adderall. So I figured, somebody got skeptical. They made a TikTok about how their meds don't seem to be working as well as they were before. And then someone suggested maybe it's because there's no Adderall in their Adderall. And then more people started piling on, wondering if their drugs were really working. And then it all snowballs into a big conspiracy theory. But that is kind of what happened, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, as always. So first of all, as mentioned in the original message I got, the New York Times has already covered all of the stuff that I initially suspected, but I'm going to go through them briefly because it's important and reading is hard and there's a paywall and there's actually something the New York Times missed. But yes, due to the shortage, some people might have had their prescriptions adjusted by their doctors. Name brand to generic Adderall, it shouldn't show much of a difference, but maybe some people are particularly sensitive to that. And there are definitely differences between Adderall and other stimulants that can be used to treat ADHD that some doctors may switch their patients to. There's also a difference between different types of Adderall, like different time-released versions or short-term versions. All of these could cause different reactions in different ways for different people. So, if there was some change to the prescription, people might notice it and they might suspect that that means that something is very wrong. And yeah, the pandemic and the Adderall shortage that makes it more difficult to find, that can add a lot of stress, which can make people think like, oh, maybe my meds aren't working as well anymore, when really it's just like, no, you're just more stressed. It could also lead to people stopping and restarting their drugs, which can cause new symptoms. And yeah, cognitive bias can come into play. If you see a bunch of other people on social media saying that their Adderall is no longer Adderalling, you might start to wonder if your Adderall is still working. Like you thought it was, but now you're not so sure. Like, did you always feel this jittery? Are you more distracted lately? Are you less motivated? It makes you wonder. And all of that could lead to a sort of mass sociogenic or psychogenic illness, which is the new term for what we used to call mass hysteria, which, yeah, I said it earlier. That's what people recognize, but it is not the correct term anymore. But then I watched one of the TikTok videos that was sent to me as an example, and I was surprised to realize that none of those explanations fully explains what seems to be going on with her.
So then I got this fancy new job, right, with this amazing insurance, which I know I'm lucky to have, but I pay how much money every month for this fucking insurance? They cover my PCP, which is amazing. So I go and I make an appointment and she starts up my Adderall prescription again. I pick up my first prescription, it gets filled with no issue. Meanwhile, I know there's an Adderall shortage, right? I've been hearing all about it, but it didn't affect me in the first couple of fills. Meanwhile, it's also time for my routine drug test. So if you take Adderall, you get tested once a year or whatever to make sure that you're actually taking it and not selling it on the street. So my doctor's like, take it for a couple of weeks, go get the drug test, and then we'll have another appointment, and then I will schedule you for 2 months at a time. I go get the drug test. It comes back no amphetamines in my system. I am negative for Adderall, but I'm taking 20 milligrams of Adderall a day. At the same time, I'm thinking this shit doesn't really work that well anymore. Like last time, like before I worked at the party store, I would take 10 in the morning and then I would take like 5 in the afternoon. Sometimes maybe I would take like a second 10 milligram pill. But I also would like get a headache if I took it without food. And like I had a bunch of other side effects that I was used to, and I was not getting any of those anymore upon this new round. So I go to my next doctor's appointment and I'm like, why did I test negative for this? I swear I'm taking it every single day as prescribed, and I'm taking the full 20 milligrams, and I'm still like kind of feeling like it's not enough. And I haven't taken Adderall in 9 months. And she's like, I don't know. That is super weird.
All right. So if you're just reading the transcript, let me describe what happened there. This woman with ADHD was unable to get her Adderall for many months. And then she got on better insurance, at which point she was finally able to get a new prescription. But patients on Adderall, at least here in the United States, are forced to take a drug test on a semi-regular basis to prove that they're actually taking their medication and not selling them to college kids prepping for their finals, because people do abuse Adderall. So yeah, we live in a dystopia. What about it? So she took the test and it actually came back negative for amphetamines, despite the fact that she is taking amphetamines. And in a follow-up video, she says she took another test and that also came back negative. And so now she's having a meltdown, which is understandable because this might mean she can't get her prescription renewed because her doctor thinks she's a drug dealer. And also, what the hell is happening? She says she has 2 pills left and she's willing to get them tested to see if they're actually Adderall. But at the moment, she doesn't know where to turn. She can't afford to hire an independent lab. That New York Times piece stated, to date, the FDA has not identified safety or quality issues with Adderall products or signals indicating a loss or change in efficacy, a representative for the FDA said in a statement. A representative from Teva Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest manufacturers of Adderall, wrote in a statement that all Teva manufacturing processes and practices are the same, and we continue to distribute the same brand and generic Adderall products. So we're left with a few options. Either 1, this woman is lying and she photoshopped her test results. 2, a pharmacy or pharmaceutical company is about to get sued all to hell. Or 3, both of the tests ordered by her physician are wrong. Let's go through each of these. First, people lie on the internet all the time for reasons only they can guess. Yeah, for money sometimes, but sometimes for clout, for attention, for whatever. That said, I don't think this woman is lying. Could she be? Sure. I am pretty much always right about everything, but stranger things have happened. Maybe I'm wrong. And yeah, it is a possibility that some screw up happened, either at the pharmacy or at the pill factory, by which I mean the actual factory where the pills are made, not the metaphorical pill mill. That said, these are controlled substances. Amphetamines of any kind are actually not even legal to possess in several developed countries. And here in the United States, Adderall is a highly regulated Schedule II drug. This isn't like homeopathic pills where you think you're taking essence of wildflowers, but it's really botulism or something because no one knows or cares how the pills are made. And ironically, it's exactly that high level of regulation that made me think initially, it's possible a pharmacist is to blame. Vox reported last month that the Adderall shortage, which began back in October of 2022, isn't just another supply chain issue that we can blame on the pandemic. It turns out that demand for Adderall has been steadily increasing over the years as doctors get better at diagnosing ADHD, and also the evidence has continued to mount that amphetamines are a hugely successful and mostly safe treatment. And during that time, though, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency has continued to crack down on the distribution of these stimulants at nearly every level. To mitigate the potential for abuse, the Drug Enforcement Administration sets production limits for Adderall and its generic competitors. In order to produce the drugs legally, pharmaceutical manufacturers must obtain approval from the government and comply with regulations for the medication's manufacturing, distribution, and dispensing. But another factor, new limits on the dispensing of the drug at U.S. pharmacies is making the situation worse. In 2022, drug distributors reached a settlement with most states over their role in the proliferation of prescription opioids that helped create an addiction overdose epidemic. Bloomberg reported this week that as part of that settlement, secret limits were placed on the dispensation of controlled substances last July. That has, in turn, prevented pharmacists from filling the prescription of every patient who comes to their pharmacy with an Adderall order. According to Bloomberg, in essence, manufacturers are supposed to limit a pharmacy's supply of drugs covered by the Controlled Substances Act, which includes opioids as well as stimulants. Pharmacists can only fill a certain number of prescriptions over a set period. But there has been widespread confusion over these rules because the pharmacists themselves don't know what the limits are or when they're approaching them. Sometimes they won't know their access to Adderall has been cut off until trying to fill a prescription. In theory, that information is hidden to prevent anyone from gaming the system. But in practice, it's made it harder for patients to get access to the medicines they need during a 6-month shortage. A medicine that allows millions of people to live their lives normally is being treated first and foremost as a dangerous narcotic to be abused, which is why we assume patients are criminals and then force them to do drug tests to prove otherwise before we let them have their medicine. We force desperate people into desperate situations, and when we do that, what do we see? One of the things we see is an increase in crime, like patients getting the drugs they need on the black market. Or maybe we see pharmacists swapping out drugs and selling them on the black market. Okay, sure, maybe. But what about that third option? 2 tests in a row showing false negatives. Like, one test, sure, that makes sense, but what are the chances that 2 tests are both wrong? I mean, that's what I thought. Like, that's the least likely scenario, right? Until I started looking into it. And that's when I found, much to my surprise, Adderall patients have been complaining about this exact problem for years, predating the Adderall shortage. For instance, check out this forum post from 4 years ago from a woman who writes, "I've been treated for ADD for at least the past 10 years and prescribed Adderall, currently taking the generic version. I take 25 milligrams of Adderall XR and 10 milligrams of immediate release midday. I take my meds religiously. My new doctor gave me 2 urine tests to screen for amphetamines and both came up negative. He said he won't prescribe my meds any longer. I am beside myself. He is clearly insinuating that I am doing something other than taking my medication myself. I'm a 47-year-old working mom, never took or take drugs, and have never encountered anything like this. What could possibly be causing a negative result when I take my medication every day?" And in the comments are dozens of people who say that they have experienced the exact same thing. Several urine tests showing negative despite the fact that they're taking their meds every day. So what gives? Are all of these people secretly drug dealers just lying on the internet for some reason? Well, a few of those commenters offered what I believe is the solution: blood tests. Comment after comment, people say that they had multiple negative urine tests before getting a positive blood test. Why is that? I mean, urine seems like the best way to test for amphetamines, considering that amphetamines appear in your urine 72 to 96 hours after your last use. It'll only stay in your blood for up to 46 hours. However, people metabolize drugs at different rates, and blood tests consistently show amphetamines more quickly after you last took them. So let's say you hadn't taken Adderall for a day or two, and let's say that you also metabolize it very quickly. You take another pill just before you take your urine test, as the woman in the TikTok video says she did. Your previous pill has cleared out of your system, and your latest pill has yet to reach your urine. So the test is negative. In the same time period, that pill would have shown up in your blood, and thus a blood test would have correctly shown positive for amphetamines. The sad thing is that there are several comments in that forum thread from people who say that they asked for a blood test but were denied. Blood tests are more expensive than urine tests. Also, we treat patients in need as criminals. Also, we live in a time when capitalism has made our healthcare system a dystopian nightmare that is difficult even for people without psychological issues to navigate. Earlier, I said we force desperate people into desperate situations. What do we see when we do that? We see an increase in crime, yeah, but we also see an increase in superstition, magical thinking, snake oil salesmen taking advantage. In an ideal world, the woman on TikTok, first of all, never would have had to gone off of her medication due to lack of good health insurance. And then she never would have needed to take a test to prove she wasn't a drug dealer just to get her medication. In a slightly less ideal world, but still better than this world, her doctor would know that a blood test might be more accurate and order one at no cost to her. The doctor would then sit down with the patient and make sure that the medicine is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and then tweak the prescription if necessary. But in this world, the patient goes without her medicine for 6 months due to lack of decent insurance. She finally gets her prescription filled only because she got a better job with better insurance. And then she gets a false negative urine test that causes her healthcare provider to question her need for medicine. And then she has to go to social media. She has nowhere else to turn. So she has a meltdown on social media where she talks about how she's assuming that her medicine isn't even real. And then this happens.
Switching gears a little bit, for those of you that have been hit hard by the Adderall shortage and are looking to try and manage their ADHD without this medication, I've been doing some research the past couple days, and I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is just like one ADHD fellow to another trying to spread the things that I've learned. So the first thing is that saffron extract is comparable to methylphenidate, which is like Ritalin. They did a clinical trial that showed that it helped hyperactivity symptoms like equally to what Ritalin does, and that it wasn't as effective with the inattentive type of ADHD, but that it still like did help a little bit. This study was not double blind though. So both the people that were running the study knew what they were giving the people, and the people who were in the study knew what they were taking. So like take it with a grain of salt, but it's like promising that saffron extract may have similar effects to methylphenidate. Again, I am not a doctor. Please do your own research. Like I'm just trying to gather what I've learned over the past couple of days. But saffron won't give you the burst of energy that you need to like that Adderall gives you, that burst of energy where you're just all of a sudden up and doing things, but it can aid in like the mental organization so that you're able to plan your tasks accordingly, which at this point I'm willing to try just about anything that isn't going to trash my body, because energy drinks and nicotine are not sustainable for me. This is what I ended up settling on. So this is the saffron extract that I ordered. It has not come in yet. I will obviously let you guys know if I find that it is working. So this is actually what I settled on, because it doesn't apparently give you the fishy burps that some fish oil supplements give you. So this is the second thing that I settled on. There's 4 total supplements that I bought. That is the second one. This is the magnesium supplement that I settled on, and then this is the B6 that I settled on. All 4 of these ended up being $118 off Amazon. They will all be here in like 2 days. And if any of them help me, I, of course, will let you guys know. Who knows, maybe they will be comparable to Adderall altogether and I will never have to take anything else again. I doubt it. But again, I'm willing to try anything to get me by. So I will keep you updated.
That's right. The medical establishment abandoned her. And who was there to pick up the pieces? Snake oil salesman who got $118 out of her wallet. And probably out of the wallets of a bunch of other people who saw these TikToks and decided their Adderall didn't work anymore and that it's time to turn to pseudoscience. Great job, everybody. Great dystopia we've got here. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.